clatter of one fork on fine hand-painted china was a gunshot in the cathedral of wealth. It silenced the entire ballroom. The music, a string quartet's elegant rendition of a modern pop song, frayed and snapped mid-note. The gentle murmur of Atlanta's elite, 100 separate conversations about stock prices, summer homes, and other people's divorces evaporated into a single, unified stillness. 1,000 pairs of eyes, belonging to a constellation of city council members, real estate magnates, and old money socialites, snapped towards the head table. The air, which moments before had been thick and warm with the competing scents of lilies, gardenias, expensive champagne, and even more expensive perfume, suddenly felt thin and cold. There, at the center of it all, Victor Sterling stood, his large frame eclipsing the custom-made spotlight that had been designed to illuminate him. His shadow fell entirely across his pregnant wife, a man-made eclipse. He pointed a heavy, ornate silver fork at her, its tines gleaming like fangs under the shimmering crystal chandeliers of the St. Regis Atlanta's Astor Ballroom. His voice, when it came, was a low growl that, by some dark magic of acoustics and sheer force of will, managed to coil its way into every corner of the cavernous space. "You thought you could defy me?" Dr. Lena Dubois, draped in a simple, custom-tailored cream silk gown, felt the vibration of his voice more than she heard it. The dress, chosen for its elegant simplicity, did little to hide the proud, firm swell of her 7-month pregnancy. She met his gaze, her own dark eyes refusing to yield. Her hand, slender and unadorned except for the heavy diamond wedding band he had placed on it, went instinctively to her belly, a gesture both protective and defiant. The Italian silk was cool and smooth against her skin, a stark, unwelcome contrast to the furious heat rising in her cheeks. Beneath her palm she felt a soft, reassuring flutter, the baby oblivious. Beside Victor, a woman in a blood-red dress, so tight it seemed poured over her skin, shifted in her seat. The sound of her stacked gold bangles was a discordant, tinny jangle against the sudden, profound silence. Tiffany Gold, his so-called director of marketing, a title she had acquired 1 month after her predecessor had been fired for looking at Victor the wrong way, smirked. She slowly, deliberately traced the rim of her wineglass with a long, crimson-tipped finger, her eyes, heavy with mascara, glinting with undisguised pleasure. Victor slammed his free hand on the table. The crystal trembled, champagne flutes rattling a frantic, glassy tune. A single, perfect rose in the center arrangement shed a few petals onto the white linen. "I built an empire from the red clay of this city, brick by painful, bloody brick." He seethed, his knuckles white. "I own everything I see. You see that skyline?" He gestured vaguely toward the grand, floor-to-ceiling windows. "My name is on the steel girders of half those buildings. I own the cars you people drive because I own the banks that give you the loans. I own the buildings you work in, and I own the pathetic little apartment you will soon be begging to get back into." He leaned in, the meticulously crafted image of the benevolent philanthropist cracking to reveal the predator beneath. His voice dropped to a venomous whisper, perfectly modulated to carry across the hushed room. "You are nothing! A pretty little doctor with a fancy degree who thought she could outsmart me. You thought your Ivy League education made you my equal?" He scoffed, a wet, dismissive sound. "Did you really believe I wouldn't find out you were trying to? What was the charmingly naive term your lawyer used? Restructure your assets?" Laughter, sharp and cruel as shattered glass, erupted from Tiffany. She tossed her long, dark hair over her shoulder, the movement calculated. She thought she was a player, Vic. It's cute, really, like a kitten trying to roar. Lena kept her chin held high, her spine a rod of iron. She focused on a point just past Victor's ear, the blurred, shocked face of the mayor's wife. "Victor, this is neither the time nor the place for this discussion." "This is precisely the time and the place," he roared, his face contorting, the veins in his neck standing out like cords. "This is my gala, my triumph, a celebration of the Sterling Community Foundation." He sneered the name of his own charity. "A testament to my generosity. A night where I pretend to give a damn about the less fortunate, and you stand here, a monument to my greatest mistake." He gestured wildly with the fork, a mad conductor of his own orchestra of humiliation. The sea of frozen faces stared back, Atlanta's elite, trapped in the amber of unfolding drama. "Look at them. They worship me, not because they like me, but because they fear me. They know what I am capable of, and now they will all know what you are, a faithless, scheming little traitor." He lunged forward and grabbed her wrist. A collective gasp, a soft, sibilant wave rippled through the audience. His grip was like a steel manacle, cold and unyielding. "Get your hands off me!" Lena's voice was low, steady, each word a chip of ice. It was a command, not a plea. The doctor in her cataloged the pressure points in his grip, the way her pulse hammered against his fingers. He laughed, a harsh, ugly sound devoid of all humor. "Or what? You'll call your daddy? The big bad general is a long way from here, little girl. His rank doesn't mean a thing in my city. There's no one to save you." With a brutal yank, he pulled her chair back, forcing her to stumble to her feet. The sudden movement sent a wave of dizziness through her, the room tilting precariously. For a terrifying moment, the $100,000 chandeliers overhead blurred into a single, blinding star. She planted her feet, willing her body to find its center of gravity. Near the ballroom's grand, arched entrance, a uniformed police officer, Officer Davies, stood motionless, a statue carved from civic duty. He had been assigned to the event for security, a side gig for extra pay. He made no move to intervene. He was a piece of the scenery, paid for by Victor Sterling's foundation for the night. He simply watched, his expression unreadable. His phone, however, was held low, almost against his hip, angled perfectly. Its red recording light was a tiny, steady, secret beacon in the dimness. "I gave you everything." Victor continued his tirade, his face now inches from hers. His grip on her wrist tightened, a bruising punctuation to his words. "This life, this status, a place at my side. I plucked you from a world of sterile clinics and academic papers and put you at the center of the universe, and you repaid me with treachery." He shook her slightly. "You are a cancer, Lena, a disease in my perfect world, and a good businessman always cuts out the cancer before it can spread." He turned his head slightly, and two burly men in black suits, his personal security, began moving from their posts at the edge of the room. Their advance was slow, deliberate, adding to the theatricality of it all. "I want her out," Victor commanded, his voice ringing with authority. "And I want her things out of my penthouse by midnight." He paused, a wicked, triumphant smile spreading across his face. "Oh, wait." He looked back at Lena, his eyes glittering with malice. "You don't live in my penthouse anymore, do you? I almost forgot. You live in that quaint little two-bedroom at the Onyx Towers, one of my more affordables properties. How is the view of the interstate, my love?" He leaned closer still, his breath hot and fetid with the expensive scotch he'd been drinking. "Consider this your official eviction notice, doctor. You and that thing inside you. You have 24 hours." The guards took her arms. Their touch was firm but impersonal, two machines following orders. She did not struggle. Her eyes, however, never left his. The fear was a cold, coiling knot in her stomach, a primal terror for her child, but beneath it, a decision was forming, hardening from a liquid fear into crystalline resolve. Her chin lifted another fraction of an inch. Tiffany stood and sauntered over, the crimson silk of her dress clinging to her hips. She ran a perfectly manicured nail, the color of dried blood, down Lena's arm, leaving a faint white line on her skin. "Such a shame," she purred, her voice a theatrical stage whisper. "And after all that redecorating you did, the nursery was almost tasteful." Victor released her with a sudden, violent shove. It wasn't a hard push, but it was unexpected. Lena, caught between the forward momentum of his shove and the backward pull of her own unbalanced weight, stumbled backward. Her heel, a modest 2 inches chosen for comfort, caught on the thick pile of the custom-woven carpet. Time seemed to stretch and warp. She saw the horrified face of a woman at a nearby table, her hand flying to her mouth. She saw the chandeliers swing in a dizzying arc. She felt a moment of weightlessness, a terrifying freedom, and then the world came rushing back. She fell. The impact was jarring, a brutal shock that traveled from her hip up her spine. The cream dress, her armor of elegance, pooled around her on the floor like spilled milk. A wave of pain, sharp and terrifyingly specific, shot through her lower back and radiated downward. Her hand flew to her belly, a desperate, instinctual shield for the life within. She lay there, on the plush, patterned carpet, among the fallen napkins and forgotten prestige, every eye in Atlanta society boring into her like a physical weight. The silence in the room was no longer just an absence of sound, it was absolute, a heavy, suffocating blanket. Mr. Sterling, unmoved, smoothed the lapels of his dark suit jacket. He calmly reached down, picked up his wine glass from the table, and held it aloft, addressing his stunned audience. "To new beginnings," he announced, his voice booming in the stillness. A few people, sycophants, and the truly terrified, raised their glasses in a shaky, uncertain echo. But Lena didn't see them. She was on the floor, the world, a forest of chair legs and designer shoes, the scent of lilies now cloying and funereal, the silence a roar in her ears. The physical shock slowly began to recede, leaving a deeper, more chilling reality in its wake. The grand, gilded ballroom, once a symbol of her world, now felt like an icy, suffocating tomb. Cold air pierced, silence roared, pressing down, head throbbed, silk dress clung, a shroud. She tasted metallic blood, lilies sickened, whispers judged. A large, dark hand, undeniably masculine and surprisingly gentle, appeared in her blurred, tear-filled vision, extending towards her with an almost ethereal slowness. It was certainly not Victor's, whose touch was now synonymous with betrayal. And it was just as certainly not Tiffany's, whose manicured claws she could still feel, metaphorically embedded in her heart. The hand was dark-skinned, the cuff of a crisp, dark blue uniform shirt just visible beneath a perfectly tailored sleeve, hinting at authority and order amidst her chaos. A gentle, yet undeniably firm grip, devoid of any aggression, closed carefully and respectfully around her elbow, a lifeline in a storm. She felt herself being lifted, slowly, meticulously, with an almost agonizing care, from the cold, unforgiving floor. Her limbs protested with a symphony of aches and pains, a dull, pervasive throb in her hip where she had fallen, followed by a searing, white-hot flash in her lower back that momentarily stole her breath. But still, she did not scream. Not a single sound escaped her lips. Her chin remained firm, a tiny, almost imperceptible upward tilt of defiance, a silent, unyielding declaration of resistance in the face of what felt like absolute, unrecoverable collapse. Her gaze, though unfocused, refused to meet the myriad eyes that watched her. The hand, a steadfast and respectful anchor, continued to guide her with unwavering resolve, cutting a path through the slowly retreating tide of gawking, morbidly curious faces. Each face was a tableau of emotions, a flicker of pity here, a flash of horror there, thinly veiled amusement or outright disdain. She saw the mayor's wife, a woman she had often exchanged pleasantries with at charity events, her usually composed face now a contorted mask of pity bordering on revulsion and horror, her painted lips pursed in a silent, "Oh dear." She saw others, their eyes wide and unblinking, some immediately turning away, unable or unwilling to meet her gaze, while others shamelessly leaned in, their heads close together, whispering behind cupped hands, their words unheard but their intent painfully clear. The cacophony of the room, which had momentarily dwindled to a shocked silence, now began to swell into a confused, undulating murmur of renewed conversation, punctuated by the clinking of glasses and the distant strains of the orchestra attempting to recover its rhythm. This growing wave of sound began to recede, fading into a dull roar, as she was steered with purposeful, quiet efficiency towards a discreet, almost hidden service door, a portal to a different, less judgmental world. The service corridor was a stark, almost brutal contrast to the opulent, glittering ballroom she had just been dragged from. The air here was noticeably cooler, almost brisk, carrying the faint, clean, almost sterile scent of industrial disinfectant mixed with the fresh, crisp aroma of freshly laundered linens, a practical scent that spoke of utility, not luxury. The walls were a pale, utilitarian beige, unadorned and unpretentious, completely devoid of the rich tapestries, gilded mirrors, and polished mahogany wood that had defined the main hall. The carpet underfoot was a thin, practical gray, worn smooth in places by countless unseen footsteps, a world away from the plush, custom-woven, intricate patterns she had just stumbled upon. Footsteps, now hers and the officer's, echoed with an almost alarming clarity, sharp and solitary against the stark silence, each sound amplified in the narrow, functional space. Fluorescent lights hummed with a low, constant drone, casting a harsh, unforgiving glow that illuminated every imperfection, every scuff mark on the walls. The hand, still a steady and comforting presence at her elbow, continued its silent guidance, leading her with an unspoken understanding into a small, private women's lounge. The room was blessedly empty, a sanctuary from the relentless scrutiny. A faint, almost imperceptible hum of air conditioning was the only sound, a gentle mechanical breath that filled the quiet space. The room was a study in understated elegance, decorated in muted, calming tones of cream and dove gray, a visual balm for her overstimulated senses. Soft, inviting velvet armchairs were arranged around a low table, and a vanity table, intricately carved, was laden with an array of silver-backed brushes and gleaming crystal atomizers, catching the soft, recessed lighting. The marble countertop gleamed under the gentle glow, cold and pristine to the touch, a silent testament to meticulous cleanliness. The air smelled not of lilies, but of an expensive, understated floral potpourri, a delicate, almost ethereal scent that spoke of quiet luxury, a soothing contrast to the harsh realities she had just faced. It was a space designed for respite, for recovery, for quiet reflection. She sank onto one of the plush velvet settees, the fabric surprisingly soft and cool against her skin, a momentary blissful balm for her burning humiliation. The officer, a silent sentinel she now recognized as Officer Davies, stood silently for a moment, his presence a quiet, unassuming anchor in the tumultuous storm of her emotions. He did not speak, his respect for her privacy evident in his stillness. He simply reached into the inner pocket of his crisply tailored dark blue jacket, his movements economical and precise, and withdrew a small, pristine white card. With a deliberate, almost ritualistic gesture, he placed it gently on the polished mahogany table beside her, the slight click of the card against the wood, the only sound. A faint, almost imperceptible nod of his head, a gesture of understanding and concern, passed between them. Then, with the same quiet dignity, he turned and was gone, the door clicking softly shut behind him, sealing her in solitude. His departure left an even deeper, more profound stillness, a quietude that felt vast and endless, a canvas upon which her raw emotions could finally begin to unfurl. The only sound now was the gentle hum of the air conditioning, a constant, low murmur. Lena stared at the card. It was simple, unadorned, embossed with a simple, understated silver badge and a 7-digit number. There was no name, no explanatory text, no grand pronouncements, just a quiet, unbidden lifeline, extended without question or expectation. She did not touch it, her fingers hovering inches above its surface as if it were a fragile, precious artifact. Its very presence, however, was a comfort, a hint that not all decency had vanished from the world. The searing dizziness that had plagued her since her fall had finally subsided, leaving behind a hollow, echoing space in her head, a strange lightness where the throbbing had been. Her body, however, was now a symphony of protest, a cacophony of aches and pains. A dull, relentless throb pulsed deep in her hip, radiating its dull agony down her thigh. Her lower back ached with a deep, bruising pain that intensified with every shallow, careful breath she took, a constant, nagging reminder of the hard marble floor. She took a slow, measured breath, allowing the expensive, understated scent of the potpourri to fill her lungs, a fragile, almost tenuous anchor to the immediate present. Her hands, still trembling slightly despite her best efforts to control them, went instinctively, protectively, to her belly, a gesture born of primal instinct. Under her palm, beneath the delicate silk, she felt it, a gentle flutter, almost imperceptible yet unmistakable. Hope, a tiny, resilient dance within, a secret language shared only between them. This tiny life, this precious cargo, was all that mattered now. The world outside, the venomous words, the cruel, shrill laughter, the public spectacle of her fall, it all faded, receding into an indistinct hum, becoming background noise to the silent, insistent beat beneath her skin. A fierce, almost primal protectiveness surged through her, hotter and more potent than any shame, any anger, any humiliation. She felt the baby kick again, a soft, reassuring tap, a gentle promise of a future that still held meaning, a future that she would fight for. her eyes closed, shielding her from the opulent but now oppressive surroundings. The memory surfaced, Victor's contorted, hateful face, his features twisted into a mask of cruel satisfaction. She heard Tiffany's shrill, triumphant cackle, a sound that would forever haunt her nightmares. He felt the brutal, unforgiving yank of his hand, the sudden, violent release that sent her sprawling. The memories played like a grotesque, never-ending film loop, each frame a fresh, agonizing wound, each detail etched into her consciousness. The humiliation, a bitter, metallic bile, rose in her throat, threatening to choke her. She had been exposed, stripped bare of her dignity, left to fall, not just physically but metaphorically, in front of an entire city, a public spectacle designed for her utter ruin. The chill of the marble against her cheek, the biting cold of the air that seemed to mock her vulnerability, the sudden, vast emptiness in her stomach, it was all a devastating testament to his power, his insidious reach, his ability to destroy her with a single calculated act. But then, the baby fluttered again, a gentle, insistent tremor against her palm, a reminder, a quiet, undeniable truth that superseded all others. This tiny, vulnerable being, entirely dependent on her, brought with it a cold, sharp, unyielding clarity. She would not beg, not for him, not for anyone. The public tears, the agonizing stumble, the searing shame, that was for tonight. That was the last time she would allow herself to be seen in such a state. She would not afford him the immense satisfaction of seeing her break, of witnessing her complete collapse. Not again. Not ever. The very thought ignited a spark, a nascent flame of defiance within her. Her fingers, no longer trembling, traced the gentle curve of her belly, the soft, yielding skin, the undeniable, vibrant presence within. This was her strength. This was her unwavering future. This was her purpose. Her eyes opened, snapping into sharp focus. They were dry, devoid of tears, reflecting a newfound resolve. Her jaw was set, a hard, determined line. The rage, cold and clean and precise, began to set in, slowly but surely replacing the all-consuming, debilitating fear. It was a righteous anger, a fuel for what was to come. He had taken her home. He had taken her dignity. He had not, however, taken her resolve. He had underestimated her. Her gaze hardened, first on the simple white card on the table, then shifting to her own reflection in the vanity mirror. Her custom-made cream dress was smudged with dust and dirt from the fall. Her intricately styled hair was slightly askew, a few strands escaping their elegant confines. But her chin remained high, her eyes glinting with a steely, unyielding determination. The fight, she realized with a fierce, quiet certainty, had just begun. It was a quiet promise, whispered to herself, to her child, and to the man who had dared to break her. A promise that resonated with the strength of a new dawn. As dawn broke over the city, Lena's resolve hardened, but elsewhere, in a gilded cage high above the same awakening metropolis, another drama was unfolding. Victor Sterling, oblivious to the quiet fire he had ignited, was savoring his perceived victory. The penthouse was silent. It was a profound, expensive silence, bought and paid for by triple-pane glass and a 50-floor buffer from the city below. The air, chilled to a precise 68 degrees, smelled of aged leather, Victor's single malt scotch, and the lingering, aggressive spice of Tiffany's perfume. Below, the lights of Atlanta glittered like a carpet of shattered diamonds, a kingdom spread at their feet. The only sound was the clink of a heavy crystal decanter as Victor poured 2 drinks, the amber liquid catching the light. Laughter, sudden and sharp, erupted from Tiffany. It was a raw, ugly sound in the curated stillness of the room. She kicked off her red stilettos, the color of violent slash against the cream-colored marble floor, and collapsed onto the vast white leather sofa. "I can't stop seeing it!" she shrieked, clutching her stomach. Her face, that moment she knew she was going down. Oh God, it was better than the opera. Victor chuckled, a low rumble in his chest. He crossed the room, his dark suit immaculate, a shadow moving through the monochromatic space. He handed her a glass. "A sack of potatoes in a $5,000 dress." He swirled his own drink, watching the scotch coat the sides of the crystal. The great Dr. Dubois, so poised, so educated. He took a long, slow sip. His eyes were fixed on the view, but he was seeing the ballroom, the gasps, the fear, the delicious, intoxicating silence of 100 powerful people held captive by his will. "You broke her, Vic." Tiffany's voice was a purr of admiration. She swung her legs onto the sofa, the blood-red fabric of her dress clinging to her thighs. Her gold bangles clattered as she patted the cushion beside her. "You actually broke her! I didn't think she had it in her to fall." "Everything falls." He sat, not next to her, but on the opposite end of the sprawling sofa, a king surveying his domain. "It's just a matter of applying the right pressure. She made it easy." He reached for a sleek, black leather portfolio on the glass coffee table. The snap of its magnetic clasp was loud in the quiet. He fanned a sheaf of documents across the polished surface. They were crisp, heavy, lethal. "The eviction is just the appetizer, my love." His tone was that of a professor explaining a simple theorem, a public lesson. The real work happens now, in the quiet. He tapped the first document with a manicured finger. Item A. The prenuptial agreement. Specifically, Clause 11, subsection B, the infidelity clause. Her little stunt with her lawyer trying to move assets? That's financial infidelity. It voids everything. She gets nothing. Tiffany leaned forward, the red dress gaping. Her eyes, wide and hungry, scanned the papers. Nothing? Less than nothing. He slid another paper forward. Item B, a motion, already drafted, to be filed at 8 a.m. tomorrow. It freezes all her accounts. The personal one she thought I didn't know about. The joint accounts, her credit cards. By lunch, she won't be able to buy a cup of coffee. He smiled, a thin, cruel slash. Let's see how far that Ivy League education gets her with a negative balance. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle in the cold, still air. He was a master of suspense, a conductor of cruelty, and the crown jewel. He produced a third document, a custody petition. We will argue that her reckless and deceptive behavior, coupled with her demonstrated emotional instability, he gestured vaguely, as if referencing the fall, makes her an unfit mother. We will argue that the womb itself is an unstable environment. Tiffany's breath hitched. You can do that? I can do anything. He leaned back, the leather creaking in protest. This is my city, my banks, my judges. She will have the baby, and a court-appointed functionary will hand it to me. She can have visitation, perhaps on the first Sunday of the month, supervised, of course. A new silence fell. This one was different. It was charged with Tiffany's ambition. She got up from the sofa and walked toward the window, her silhouette a stark red figure against the glittering cityscape. The jangle of her jewelry was the only sound. She turned. Her expression was no longer one of simple, gleeful cruelty. It was calculated. "And what about me, Victor? You are here with me. Isn't that enough?" It was. For a while. She walked back towards him, her movement slow, deliberate, a predator stalking its prey. She ran a crimson nail along the back of the sofa just behind his head. "I watched you destroy your wife tonight, Victor. For me, it was the most romantic thing I've ever seen." She leaned down, her voice a hot whisper in his ear. "But I am not her. I am not a strategic acquisition. I'm not going to end up a liability on your balance sheet." He stiffened, but did not pull away. "I don't want a bigger allowance, Vic. I don't want a new car." She moved around the sofa and stood in front of him, blocking his view of the city, blocking his view of everything but her. "I want equity, 10% of Sterling Properties, in writing, and I want a ring on my finger by the end of the month." Victor stared at her, a flicker of annoyance in his eyes. He despised being managed. He was the one who pulled the strings. "You want to replace her?" he scoffed, a dismissive sound. "Lena had a pedigree, a doctorate, a name. She was an asset." "Who you just liquidated," Tiffany shot back, not missing a beat. "And now there's a vacancy. I'm a better asset, Victor. I understand you. I admire you. I'm not afraid of the things you do. I enjoy them." He looked at Lena's ghost then, a flicker in his mind of her disappointed eyes, her quiet judgments, her constant, unspoken moral superiority. He hated it, hated her for it. Tiffany was simple. Tiffany was loyal. Tiffany was a reflection of his own glorious ego. He stood, his height dwarfing her. He looked down at the documents, at the architecture of ruin he had so meticulously designed for Lena. He thought of her on the floor, cream silk pooled around her, a masterpiece of his own creation. An asset that fails to perform is a liability to be liquidated. He looked back at Tiffany. He saw the greed, the ambition. He did not care. It was a fire he could control. He preferred it to Lena's ice. 10% is absurd, he said. The negotiation a foregone conclusion? Is it? Tiffany smiled, a slow, knowing smile that did not reach her eyes. She placed a hand on her own flat stomach, over the tight red silk. "There's something else." Victor waited. "Your unfit mother problem? It's solved." Her voice was soft, but the words hit him like a physical blow. "I'm pregnant, Victor. 6 weeks! We're going to have a baby, a real sterling heir, a boy." He stared at her, then at her stomach, then back at her face. The arrogance, the supreme self-confidence that defined him saw only what it wanted to see. A better heir, a loyal mother, a legacy secured not through a strategic merger but through a hostile takeover of his own life. The lies, the manipulations, the sheer audacity of her claim, he missed it all. He saw only victory, a new, more perfect victory. A slow smile spread across his face, genuine and wide. He felt a surge of power, a feeling of absolute invincibility. He had erased the past and secured the future in a single evening. He stepped past her, past the documents on the table, and strode to the obsidian black desk in the corner of the room. He picked up the receiver of a sleek, minimalist phone. He punched one button. It rang 2 times. "Elias," he said, his voice a blade of cold steel. There were no pleasantries. "It's Victor. Pull the trigger." A pause. "Everything. The Dubois portfolio. File the motion at 8. I want her accounts frozen before she wakes up, and file the custody motion. Yes, the unfit one. effective immediately. He listened for a moment, his expression unreadable. Just do it. He hung up the phone. The click of the receiver settling into its cradle echoed in the vast room. The machine was now in motion. The gears were turning, grinding Lena's life into dust. He walked back to the floor-to-ceiling window, his drink still in hand. The city lights blurred into a galaxy of his own making. He saw his reflection superimposed over it all, a tall, powerful man in a dark suit, a king surveying his kingdom. Tiffany, the red dress, the demands, they faded into the background. In this moment, there was only him and his absolute triumph. He raised his glass to the man in the window. He toasted his victory. While Victor celebrated his perceived triumph, a world away, Lena Dubois was stirring from a fitful, dream-haunted sleep. The sterile comfort of a discreet hotel suite offered little solace from the night's brutal memories, but a new day brought with it a cold, stark reality. The hotel suite was a mausoleum of muted luxury. The air, heavy and still, carried the faint, clean scent of ozone from the air purifier, a silent hum underpinning the suffocating quiet. Silk sheets, cool and crisp against her skin, offered little comfort. Each breath Lena took was shallow, careful, as if deep inhalation might shatter the fragile peace she had found in sleep. Her hand went to her belly, a familiar, protective gesture, finding the gentle mound beneath the soft cotton of the borrowed nightgown. Hope stirred within, a soft flutter, a defiant pulse of life. The room felt immense, impersonal, yet a temporary refuge. She rose, the thick-piled carpet silencing her steps. Sunlight, sharp and unyielding, sliced through the gap in the heavy blackout curtains, illuminating dust motes dancing in the sterile air. She moved to the window, pulling back the drape. Atlanta sprawled beneath her, a glittering tapestry of morning traffic, oblivious to her quiet despair. The city she had loved now felt like a vast, indifferent machine. A growl in her stomach. Hunger! She ordered breakfast from room service, the voice on the phone polite, distant. 10 minutes later, a silver cart arrived, laden with French toast and fresh fruit. She reached for her wallet, extracting her premium black card. The young man swiped it. His smile faltered. He tried again. The machine beeped, a flat, final sound. Declined. Her heart tightened. "I'm sorry, ma'am," he mumbled, eyes flicking to the card, then to her face. "It's not going through." "Try another," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. She offered her personal American Express, the one she kept for emergencies. Declined. Her corporate card. Declined. Each beep a hammer blow. The polite smile had vanished, replaced by an awkward pity. I can't take this," he stammered, gesturing to the cart. Lena swallowed. "Of course. My apologies." Her chin lifted. "Not here. Not now." She watched him push the cart away, the clatter of porcelain a mockery of her carefully maintained composure. The phone felt heavy in her hand. Her bank. She navigated the automated maze, finally reaching a live person. The voice was calm, professional, delivering news like a death sentence. "All accounts associated with Dr. Lena Dubois have been frozen. Legal injunction." What injunction? The word tasted like ash. "I cannot disclose further details, ma'am. You'll need to contact your legal representation." Click. The line went dead. Frozen. Her assets, her life's work locked away. Victor's doing. She knew it. The anger, cold and sharp, began to ignite within her. She dressed quickly, pulling on the simple cream dress she'd worn yesterday, now laundered, a stark contrast to the opulence of the suite. The fabric felt like a second skin, familiar and comforting. She needed to go home. The Onyx Towers, a beacon of steel and glass, rising arrogantly into the sky. Her building, her home. The doorman, Marcus, a kind, elderly man who had known her for years, met her at the entrance. His face was etched with an uncomfortable sympathy. "Dr. Dubois," he began, his voice low, apologetic. "I'm sorry, ma'am. Mr. Sterling's people changed the locks. Your access card won't work." Her key, usually a reassuring weight in her palm, felt suddenly foreign. She tried it anyway. The card reader glowed red. Denied. A cold knot formed in her stomach. "My car?" "Towed, ma'am. Orders from Mr. Sterling's security detail." No key, no car, no home. The world she had built, meticulously, brick by painstaking brick, was crumbling around her. She looked up at her penthouse, a blank, unfeeling expanse of glass reflecting the indifferent sky. He had erased her, just like that. The air around the Onyx Towers, usually a vibrant hum of city life, now felt frigid, biting. A bitter wind whipped around her, a physical manifestation of her stripped reality. She could almost taste the metallic tang of betrayal in the stale city air. She pulled out her phone, her corporate contact list. She scrolled, her finger hovering over Elias Thorne's name, Victor's most trusted legal counsel, the man who orchestrated his every legal maneuver. No, that would be walking into the lion's den unprepared. She needed her own. She called her personal lawyer, David Chen. Voicemail, his assistant. "Mr. Chen is in a meeting. He'll call you back." 1 hour passed, then another. No call. Her phone buzzed. A text from Alara, her longtime personal assistant, a woman she had trusted implicitly, a confidant, a friend. "Dr. Dubois, I'm so sorry. Mr. Sterling has taken control of all your personal and corporate accounts. My access has been revoked. I'm truly helpless." Ilara? Helpless? Ilara, who knew every hidden account, every investment, every single detail of Lena's finances. The woman who had sworn loyalty for years. The text felt hollow, a carefully crafted lie. A betrayal. The sting was sharper than the cold wind, more acute than the hunger. Alara had been a Trojan horse feeding Victor information. The taste of it, acrid and sickening, filled her mouth. There was only one place left, Victor's office, the Sterling Properties building. She took a taxi, paid cash from a small emergency stash she kept hidden. The ride felt interminable, each block a journey into deeper uncertainty. The Sterling Properties lobby was a monument to Victor's ego, soaring ceilings, polished black marble floors reflecting the glow of a colossal chandelier, the air smelling of new money and aggressive ambition. A sleek, modern scent, a blend of steel and expensive cleaning agents. The temperature was set to a brisk 65 degrees, a constant, controlled chill. She bypassed the reception desk, her jaw set, her chin high. She knew the layout. She rode the private elevator to the executive floor, the silence inside broken only by the soft whoosh of air. The doors opened directly into a vast, open-plan office space. It was a hive of activity, but the buzz of voices seemed to die down as she stepped out, heads turned, eyes followed her. She walked directly to the large glass-walled conference room, Victor's inner sanctum. The room hummed with the low murmur of voices, the clatter of papers, the scent of expensive coffee and old leather. Victor sat at the head of the impossibly long, polished obsidian table, a phalanx of his best lawyers flanking him. Elias Thorne, his face a mask of practiced neutrality, sat to Victor's right. Victor's dark suit was immaculate, a stark contrast to the pale cream of her own dress. He looked up as she entered, a slow, predatory smile spreading across his face. He gestured to an empty chair at the far end of the table, a cruel invitation. "Lena, how utterly unexpected! Do join us!" His voice was a smooth, mocking balm. She ignored the chair, remaining standing, her gaze fixed on him. "My accounts, my home, my car. What have you done, Victor?" Her voice was low, controlled, every word a precisely aimed arrow. He leaned back, intertwining his fingers. The soft hum of the HVAC system filled the brief silence. "I have merely exercised my rights, my dear. Rights you so carelessly abrogated." He looked to Elias Thorne, a conspiratorial glance. "Isn't that right, Elias?" Elias nodded, his expression unyielding. "Dr. Dubois, these are standard proceedings following the initiation of divorce. Asset freezes are common practice." "Divorce?" The word hit her with the force of a physical blow. Her breath caught, a sharp, ragged gasp. She looked from Elias to Victor, her eyes wide with a sudden, searing pain. He hadn't just frozen her assets, he was ending their marriage. Now, here, in front of his lawyers. Victor chuckled, a low, guttural sound. "Oh, did you not receive the papers? My apologies. We sent them to the Onyx Towers this morning. Perhaps your new security arrangements interfered." He took a sip from a crystal glass of water, his eyes never leaving hers. "A formality, really." "Our marriage was a formality, wasn't it? A partnership of convenience, a branding exercise. I built your career, Lena. I gave you everything." He paused, his gaze dropping to her belly, a flicker of cold disdain in his eyes. "And now you want to dismantle it all for some whim?" The air crackled with tension. She felt the weight of all their gazes, dissecting her, judging her. The chill in the room seemed to sink into her very bones. He had known about the baby then. This was not just about control. This was personal. This was vicious. "You knew," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "You knew about Hope." He smirked, a cruel twist of his lips. "Of course. Did you imagine your little secret could escape me?" "Nothing escapes me, Lena, especially not the liabilities." His voice dropped, becoming a low, venomous hiss for her ears alone. "You were always too soft, too sentimental. Now look at you. A broken woman, a ruined career, and soon a failed mother." His cruel words struck. "Failed mother!" Her hand shielded Hope. The world tilted, nauseous. She gripped the table, knuckles white. A woman, a junior lawyer, Lena vaguely recognized, approached her, a thick manila envelope held out. "Dr. Dubois, these are the divorce papers." Her voice was soft, apologetic. "You are formally served." Lena stared at the envelope. It was heavy, tangible proof of her undoing. She took it, the paper feeling cold and slick against her trembling fingers. She looked at Victor, her eyes blazing, the fire of 1,000 suns contained in their depths. The anger, so cold moments before, now roared through her veins, a purifying inferno. She would not fall again. Not here. Not for him. Not for them. "You think this is over, Victor?" she said, her voice clear, resonant, filling the vast room. Her chin rose, defiance etched on her beautiful face. "You think you've won?" He laughed, a harsh, dismissive sound that echoed off the glass walls. "My dear Lena, I haven't just won. I have liquidated you. There is nothing left." She looked at him, then at the envelope in her hand, then at the empty expanse of the city through the glass. They thought she had nothing. They were wrong. She had hope. She had her resolve. She had her secret. She turned and walked out, the heavy envelope clutched tight. Her footsteps echoed, stark and solitary, on the polished marble. Behind her, the murmuring resumed, a tide of speculation. She walked past the silent, gawking faces in the open-plan office. She didn't look back. She didn't look down. Outside, the cold wind whipped her dress. She pulled out her phone. One contact. Just one. The city lights blurred through her unshed tears as she stood on the sidewalk, the cold metal of her phone a sudden comfort against her ear. The conversation was brief, urgent, a desperate plea for help that transcended professional boundaries. Little did she know, however, that fate, or perhaps Victor's malice, was about to accelerate her timeline in a far more brutal way. A new battle was already raging, not in boardrooms or courtrooms, but within the fragile confines of her own body. The air in the private wing of the St. Jude's Medical Center was cool and smelled faintly of lavender and antiseptic, a sterile perfume designed to soothe the wealthy. It was a silence broken only by the whisper of rubber-soled shoes on polished floors and the distant, rhythmic beep of a machine somewhere down the hall. Lena lay on a bed of crisp white linen, the thin cotton of the hospital gown, a fragile barrier against the clinical chill. The suite was decorated in calming shades of cream and beige, a futile attempt to make the apparatus of crisis feel like a hotel. A savage cramp seized her abdomen, a fist of hot steel. She gasped, body arching, pain ripping through her. It was a fist of hot steel clenching deep inside. She gasped, her body arching off the bed. Her hand flew to her belly, a shield for the precious life within. It ripped through her, gone in a flash, leaving a tremor in its wake. Another followed, harder this time. She bit down on her lip, tasting copper. The soft, ambient light of the room seemed to pulse with each wave, the walls closing in. The monitor beside her bed screamed, a frantic, high-pitched alarm that cut through the curated quiet. A nurse rushed in, her face a mask of calm professionalism. "Dr. Dubois? I'm calling Dr. Evans." "It's too soon," Lena whispered, the words ragged. "Hope wasn't due for 7 more weeks." The nurse's eyes flicked from Lena's face to the frantic red numbers on the monitor. "We need to call your husband. What is his number?" Lena stared at the ceiling, at the smooth, unblemished white expanse. Her husband, the architect of this agony, the man who had frozen her life and now, by some cruel twist of fate, was being summoned to witness its most vulnerable moment. She gave the number, her voice flat, devoid of emotion. The call found Victor Sterling standing before the floor-to-ceiling window of his office. He was watching a storm roll in from the west, the sky bruising from gray to a deep, angry purple. The phone buzzed on his obsidian desk. He glanced at the unknown number, annoyed by the interruption. He answered, his tone clipped. "Sterling." "Mr. Sterling, this is Nurse Collins from St. Jude's Medical Center. I'm calling about your wife, Dr. Lena Dubois. She's been admitted. There are complications." The nurse's voice was a calm, steady drone, but certain words pierced the armor of his indifference. "Placental abruption, severe hemorrhaging, fetal distress." The words fetal distress hung in the air, stripping away the boardroom and the balance sheets. He pictured a tiny heart, a frantic, desperate rhythm on a cold monitor. For an instant, it was not Lena's child, but his. It was a terrifying, unwelcome vulnerability he had not felt in years. His knuckles were white where he gripped the phone. The moment shattered, replaced by a cold, calculating fury. This was her fault, her defiance, her weakness. She was a faulty asset, a project spiraling out of control, threatening to damage everything around it. Complications, Victor repeated, his voice a low, dangerous purr. How unfortunate! Is she lucid? Yes, but she's in a great deal of pain. The doctor is recommending an emergency C-section. Mr. Sterling, she's asking for you. We really think you should be here. He laughed. It was a hollow, ugly sound, devoid of humor. You think I should be there? Let me explain something to you, Nurse Collins. Dr. Dubois is in the process of attempting to defraud me in a divorce proceeding. She has proven herself to be emotionally unstable and financially reckless. Her presence and the presence of that child is a liability I was in the process of mitigating. You are calling me about a line item on a spreadsheet that is highlighted for removal. He paused, letting the cruelty sink in. He could hear the nurse's shocked silence. This changes nothing, he continued, his voice dropping to a conversational tone that was more chilling than any shout. She made her choice when she decided to act against my interests. Some debts are paid in full, and some are foreclosed. Do whatever you must, but do not call me again. I am not her husband. I am her creditor. He hung up, the click echoing in the silent office. He turned back to the window, watching the first fat drops of rain splatter against the glass. Tiffany sashayed into the office, a vision in a skin-tight, blood-red dress. Her gold bangles clattered as she set a file on his desk. Elias is on his way up. The motion to declare her a flight risk is ready. She noticed his expression, the tightness around his jaw. What is it? The hospital called. He did not turn from the window. Lena, she's in labor, or something like it. The baby is in danger. Tiffany's perfectly painted smile tightened. The news landed like a stone, sending ripples of calculation across her face. This was it, the final act of Lena's tragedy. And you told them? I told them my position is unchanged. She walked up behind him, her spicy perfume enveloping him. She ran a hand down his back, her crimson nails like claws on the fine wool of his suit. You did the right thing, Vic. She's trying to trap you. A sick baby, a desperate mother. It's a classic play for sympathy. She moved to face him, her eyes glittering with a fierce, possessive light. I should go! He raised an eyebrow. Why? To make sure our interests are protected, she said, her voice a silky purr. To deliver the message in person, to make sure she understands there is no going back. He studied her for a long moment, then gave a curt nod. She smiled, a predator's smile, and walked out. Back in the hospital suite, the world had shrunk to the white sheets and the relentless, cresting waves of pain. The nurse returned, her face pale. He's not coming. Lena closed her eyes. She had known. A part of her had known he wouldn't, but the finality of it still landed like a blow, stealing the air from her lungs. Her chin lifted. She would not give him the satisfaction of her tears. The door swished open. It wasn't a doctor. It was Tiffany Gold. She stood framed in the doorway, the scarlet of her dress, a violent wound in the sterile, cream-colored room. The jangle of her jewelry was an obscenity against the quiet beeping of the monitor. She glided in, the scent of her aggressive perfume battling the room's antiseptic calm. Well, 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 Tiffany began, her voice dripping with faux sympathy. Look at you. the great Dr. Dubois brought low." Lena said nothing. She simply watched her, her hand resting on her belly, a silent, primal act of protection. Tiffany circled the bed, a shark in shallow water. "I just spoke to Victor. He's busy. Closing deals, liquidating assets. You know how it is." She stopped at the foot of the bed, her eyes cold and triumphant. "He wanted me to come, to see how you were. He's concerned, of course, about his future heir. He wants to make sure the vessel is holding up." Each word was a poisoned dart. Vessel. "Get out," Lena said. Her voice was a low whisper, but it carried the weight of iron. Tiffany laughed, a brittle, ugly sound. "Oh no, I'm not going anywhere. I want a front row seat. I want to see the moment you finally realize you have nothing. No husband, no money, no power. Just this." She gestured vaguely at Lena's body, her expression one of profound disgust. A mess. A doctor swept into the room, his face grim, followed by two more nurses. He ignored Tiffany completely. "Dr. Dubois, the baby's heart rate is dropping. We have to go, now!" Chaos erupted. The bed was unlocked, wheels rattling on the floor. Nurses began detaching and reattaching wires. The doctor was barking orders. "Prep OR 3. I want a pediatric team standing by." Tiffany was shoved aside by the sudden, urgent motion. She stood against the wall, her red dress looking cheap and garish in the face of this raw medical reality. Her triumphant smirk had vanished, replaced by a flicker of shock, of fear. This was more real than she had bargained for. They were wheeling Lena out, moving fast. The ceiling light streaked by overhead. The voices were muffled, distant. The pain was a constant, roaring fire. Lena's eyes found Tiffany's for a fleeting second. She saw not a victor, but a small, petty woman swallowed by a drama far too big for her. Then she was gone. The corridor was a blur of white and steel. The air grew colder. The smell of iodine hit her. They were pushing her through the doors of an operating room, bright, cold light, masked faces, the low hum of machinery. She felt a deep, terrifying loneliness. She was utterly alone. Her hand trembled on her belly. He had liquidated her. He had won. The memory surfaced. His voice echoed in her memory, cold and final. "Some debts are paid in full, and some are foreclosed." This was foreclosure. "We're putting you under," a kind voice said. A mask came over her face. She took a breath and fell into darkness. The world dissolved into a clinical haze, a ballet of masked faces and urgent whispers, until the darkness yielded to an unexpected symphony. Silence. Then a sound. It was not a cry. It was a note, high and clear and furious, a single defiant chord of life struck against the sterile silence of the operating room. It sliced through the fog in her mind, a sound so pure and powerful it seemed to vibrate in her very bones. It was the sound of a battle won, the sound of a new world beginning. When she woke, the pain was a dull, distant ache. The room was quiet. The lavender and antiseptic smell remained. The only light came from a soft lamp in the corner, pooling on the cream-colored walls. She was alone. A nurse entered, her smile gentle. "She's perfect, Dr. Dubois. 5 pounds, 2 ounces, a fighter." They brought her the baby, a small bundle wrapped in a soft white blanket. Lena's arms, weak and trembling, reached out. She drew the bundle close. She looked down at the tiny, perfect face, a dusting of dark hair, a rosebud mouth, hope. Her finger, shaking, traced the soft curve of her daughter's cheek. The world outside, Victor's world of steel and glass and cold transactions, faded to nothing. The noise was gone. The betrayal, the anger, the fear, it all dissolved in the profound, warm weight of the small life in her arms. She held her hope. The night in the St. Jude's private suite held a profound stillness, punctuated only by the soft hum of medical machinery and the even softer breathing of the tiny life nestled beside her. The air, cool against her skin, carried the lingering scent of antiseptic, now faintly overlaid with the sweet, milky fragrance of a newborn. It was a smell of newness, of hope, a stark contrast to the sterile perfume of hospital and fear that had dominated her recent memories. Lena lay propped on the crisp white linen, exhaustion, a heavy blanket, yet sleep was a distant shore. Hope, her daughter, slept soundly in the transparent bassinet beside the bed, a miniature hand curled into a perfect pink fist. Lena reached a finger into the bassinet, gently tracing the outline of Hope's tiny ear, the delicate curve of her cheek. Such softness, such vulnerability. This was why she fought. This was why she endured. The profound love that swelled in her chest was a fierce, protective fire, burning away the last vestiges of despair. Victor had stripped her of everything material, but he could never touch this. He could never touch them. The memory of his words, venomous and chilling, echoed in the quiet room. "Failed mother!" The lie clawed at her, a bitter taste. She watched Hope's chest rise and fall, a steady rhythm of pure, unadulterated life. Hope was perfect, a fighter, just like her mother would have to be. Her chin lifted. She looked around the luxurious room, designed to cradle the wealthy in comfort even in crisis. Cream-colored walls, tasteful artwork, indirect lighting. It was a gilded cage still. She was still trapped, albeit in opulence. Victor's web extended even here, the unspoken threat of his power, a suffocating presence. She was recovering, yes, but what came next? Where would they go? Her assets frozen, her home stolen, her car towed. She had nothing by his design, except the secret. The powerful, hidden truth that pulsed beneath the surface of her shattered life. Her gaze fell on her phone, lying like a forgotten artifact on the bedside table. One contact, just one, the one she had avoided, prayed she wouldn't need. The one connection to a past she had deliberately distanced herself from, a past too strong, too demanding, too real for the polished, controlled world she had built with Victor. Now, that world was rubble. She needed an anchor. She needed solid ground. A tremor ran through her hand as she reached for the device. Fear coiled in her stomach. It wasn't fear for herself. It was fear of judgment, fear of disappointment, fear of the immense shadow her family cast, a shadow she had tried for so long to escape. This call meant admitting failure. It meant acknowledging a defeat she had sworn she would never know. But hope changed everything. This wasn't about her pride anymore. This was about survival. She unlocked the screen. Her fingers hovered over the name, a name that felt too weighty, too significant for this fragile moment. The soft glow of the screen illuminated her face, stark and pale against the cream of the pillow. A deep breath. Her hand went instinctively to her stomach, a phantom gesture of protection, then to the baby's soft blanket. This was for Hope. Every decision, every painful truth, every necessary step. For Hope. The phone rang one time, 2 times, each chime a hammer striking the silence of the room. Her heart pounded a frantic rhythm against her ribs. She closed her eyes. A voice, deep and resonant, answered, firm, undeniable. "Lena?" She swallowed. Her throat was tight. "Papa!" The word felt small, childish, escaping her lips like a fragile butterfly. It held decades of unspoken history, of expectations, of a love she had both cherished and resisted. A brief pause. A sigh, heavy with an understanding that transcended miles in time. "It is late, child. No anger, only a quiet certainty. Are you well?" The question cracked her carefully constructed composure. Her lip trembled. The pain, both physical and emotional, surged forward. "No." One word. A lifetime of hurt, a stark confession. Another silence, longer this time. She could almost feel him listening, sifting through the layers of her forced strength, peeling back the facade she had so painstakingly built. "The papers," Victor's lawyers called. Her breath hitched, so he knew. He always knew. He froze everything. Her voice was a whisper, raw and broken. "He evicted me. He divorced me. He left me with nothing." She couldn't bring herself to say almost nothing. Not yet, not the truth of hope. She needed to save that, to protect that until she was ready. "Nothing?" The voice was a low growl now, a dangerous rumble she recognized from childhood, a sound that meant justice was coming. "My daughter has nothing?" I had hope," she managed. The name a lifeline. "She's here. She's early. She's well." The words tumbled out, a desperate plea for understanding, for mercy. Another profound silence. The hospital room felt suddenly vast, cold. She could hear the soft click of something on the other end, a pen perhaps, or a heavy ring tapping against wood. A different kind of silence, the silence of a mind calculating, a strategist at work. "Early," he repeated, the word measured, deliberate. "A granddaughter." His voice was softer now, a hint of something she couldn't quite place. Not tenderness, more like a steel beam finding its foundation. "You did not call sooner. It wasn't a question, it was a statement, an accusation." "I tried to handle it," she whispered, shame washing over her. "I thought I could." A sharp intake of breath, always. A beat. "I will be there." Simple, uncompromising. Tears, hot and unwelcome, stung her eyes. "Papa, he took everything. My company." A low, resonant chuckle on the other end. Not humor, something else. The memory surfaced. Some debts are paid in full and some are foreclosed. "I don't know what to do." Her voice was small. "You birthed my granddaughter," he stated. "You have done enough." A pause. "Do you still have the documents?" "What documents?" She frowned, confused. "The ones you acquired for Meridian Financial Group." He always knew. Her eyes widened. He knew her secret. He had always known. She clutched the phone tighter. "Yes." "Good." The voice was firm, resolute. "Rest, child, and hold my granddaughter." The line clicked, dead. She lowered the phone, her hand trembling. He knew her deepest secret, her hidden power, was not so hidden after all. A wave of relief, then a surge of shame, then a burning resolve. She was not alone, not truly. Her father, a force of nature. A soft whimper from the bassinet. Hope stirred, her tiny eyes fluttering open. Lena reached for her, gently lifting the warm bundle into her arms. She held her daughter close, the sweet scent of new life filling her senses. Hope, her reason, her future. The fight was not over, it had just begun. A sound in the corridor. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, getting closer. The soft squeak of rubber soles on polished tile. Her heart pounded again, a different kind of fear. A shadow fell across the threshold. The door handle turned. Lena's heart pounded, a frantic rhythm against her ribs as she braced herself for whoever might enter. The answer came with a soft, ominous grace. The handle, a single piece of brushed steel, turned with unnerving quietness. The door swung inward, not with a click or a creak, but with the soft hydraulic hiss of expensive, silent machinery. It was not Victor. A man stood in the threshold, his frame filling the doorway, his shadow falling long and sharp across the polished floor. He was tall, ramrod straight, with shoulders that spoke of a lifetime of discipline. Close-cropped hair, graying at the temples, framed a face carved from granite. He wore a dark, impeccably tailored suit, not of fashion, but of authority. It was a heavy, matte wool that seemed to absorb the light, making him a figure of pure silhouette. There was no jewelry, save for a heavy, dark signet ring on his right hand, its crest unidentifiable and ancient. He was a statue of quiet, implacable power. He was General Silas Dubois, Lena's father. Behind him, two figures detached themselves from the deeper shadows of the hallway. A man and a woman in plain, severe business attire, their faces impassive. They moved with a silent, coordinated efficiency, their shoes making no sound on the floor. The woman carried a slim, hardened briefcase. Its metal latches clicked open with two sharp, definitive snaps. The man held a small, encrypted device, its surface cold and non-reflective. They did not look at Lena. They simply entered and took up positions against the far wall, their presence a subtle but profound shift in the room's gravity, the air growing dense and still. The woman placed a laptop on the small visitor's table, its fan whirring to life with a nearly inaudible hum. The man attached his device, and the screen glowed, filled with cascading amber lines of code. An operation was underway. The general's eyes, dark and piercing, swept the room. They took in the blinking green lights of the medical equipment, the pristine, almost luminous cream walls, and the faint, sweet, milky scent of a newborn that now mingled with the sharp, clean smell of antiseptic. His gaze landed on the transparent bassinet. He walked towards it. His steps were measured, soundless on the tile, a predator's grace in a general's uniform. He looked down at the sleeping child, at the delicate, translucent eyelids, the downy fluff of dark hair, the tiny, perfect fist curled against a pink cheek, at the soft swell of her chest rising and falling in a steady, trusting rhythm. For a long moment, he just looked. His expression did not change. His face remained a mask of stern neutrality, but a subtle tension in his jaw, a muscle she had watched clench during a dozen international crises, eased. He gave a single, almost imperceptible nod. It was not adoration, it was an assessment. A strategist confirming an objective was secure. Then he turned to Lena. She lay against the white pillows, the thin, scratchy hospital gown, a stark contrast to the immense presence of her father. She watched him, her heart a frantic drum against her ribs, the sound loud in her own ears. He walked to her bedside. He did not embrace her. He placed his large, warm hand on her shoulder. It was heavy, calloused from a life before desks and strategy rooms, the weight of it both a comfort and a command. "You did well, child." His voice was a low, quiet rumble, meant for her alone. The words, so simple, so understated, broke the dam of her fear. Tears welled, hot and sharp, but did not fall. She just nodded, her chin held high. "I had to, Father." "I know," he rumbled back, the briefest squeeze of his hand, his only other concession to sentiment. Decided. She had made the call. Now she would see it through. A soft whimper came from the bassinet. Lena reached over, her movements slow and deliberate, and gently lifted the warm, blanketed bundle into her arms. She held hope against her chest, the baby's weight, a solid, comforting reality, a shield and a reason. The baby settled, comforted by her mother's scent, a scent she instinctively preferred. The general's aide, the woman, was now speaking quietly into a satellite phone. Her voice was a colorless monotone, devoid of any emotion. "Strike package is confirmed. Authorization code Sierra Delta 7. I repeat, Sierra Delta 7. Execute. Asset reclamation protocol. All. Sterling-linked primary and subsidiary accounts. Liquidate all positions. Effective immediately." The door burst open again, this time with a violent shove that made it bang against the doorstop. Victor Sterling strode in, his aggressive cologne preceding him. A dark pinstripe suit was stretched over a triumphant posture. His face was alight with a cruel, manic glee. He did not seem to notice the general or his aides at first, his entire focus, a laser beam of malice aimed at the bed. "Well, well, well," he boomed, his voice echoing in the quiet suite, a grating violation of the peace. He clapped his hands together, the sound like a gunshot. "The fallen queen and her sterile castle. I just couldn't stay away. I had to see this for myself. I find the aftermath of a total victory so clarifying, don't you?" He laughed, a rich, booming sound that was a violation in this sacred quiet. "They told me you were here, alone, cast off, playing house. I must say, it suits you, this fragility, this helplessness. It's a much more honest look for you than pretending to be my equal in boardrooms you never deserved to be in. Are." His eyes finally registered the other people in the room. He scanned them, his expression shifting from gloating to dismissive annoyance. He waved a hand vaguely at the general. "And who is this? Another one of your charity cases? A lawyer, perhaps? Let me save you the trouble, old man." "She has nothing. Her accounts are frozen. Her properties are forfeit. Her life, as she knew it, is over. You're wasting your time." The general remained silent, his gaze fixed on Victor, unblinking. He was a mountain, unmoved. Victor's phone buzzed in his pocket. He ignored it, the vibration a minor irritant as he turned his attention back to Lena, savoring his moment. "You see, this is what happens when you miscalculate, when you forget your place. I built an empire. I move markets. I crush obstacles. You thought you could challenge that? You thought you could hide assets from me? I am the bank. I am the market. Everything you thought you had was simply a loan from my world, a world you were never truly a part of." His phone buzzed again, and again, a frantic, insistent vibration against his thigh. Annoyed, he ripped it from his pocket. He glanced at the screen, the name of his private banker at Sterling's largest lender. His brow furrowed. He answered, his tone sharp with impatience. "What?" A pause. Victor's face, flushed with victory, began to change. The blood drained from it, leaving his skin a pasty gray. The confident smirk faltered, replaced by a slack-jawed confusion. "What do you mean, a margin call? That's impossible. Run the numbers again, idiot. My liquidity is... He stopped. He listened, his eyes wide. The color in his face shifted to a mottled, angry red. What collateral clause? There is no such clause. I wrote the damn contracts myself. Who authorized this? Who? He fell silent again, listening to the disembodied voice on the other end of the line. His knuckles were white where he gripped the phone. He looked from the phone to the general's aide, who was still standing impassively against the wall, a ghost in a business suit. Then to the general himself. A flicker of dawning, sickening horror appeared in his eyes. "That's not possible," Victor whispered into the phone, his booming voice now a strangled, airless rasp. He hung up, his thumb stabbing at the screen. He immediately tried to dial his CFO. The call didn't connect. A recorded message informed him the number was no longer in service. He tried his private wealth manager. Nothing. A busy signal. "What is this?" he snarled, whirling on the general, his voice cracking. "What have you done?" "I have done nothing," the general said, his voice dangerously quiet, each word landing with chilling precision. "I am merely here to see my granddaughter, and to ensure my daughter's instructions are carried out." "Her instructions?" Victor laughed, but it was a ragged, panicked sound, thin and brittle. "She has no instructions. She has no power. She is a patient in a hospital bed. I own everything she ever touched. I own the mortgage on this building. I own her debt. I own her." He took a step forward, his hand raised as if to strike, and stopped. Standing silently by the door, almost blending into the cream-colored wall, was a uniformed police officer. "Officer Davies." His hand rested casually near his belt. His face was impassive. He was just watching, witnessing. A silent, state-sanctioned guardian? Victor's frantic gaze swung from the officer back to the general. He pointed a trembling finger at Lena. "She signed everything away. She is nothing." The general did not raise his voice. He did not move. He simply looked at the sputtering, unraveling tycoon and delivered the killing blow, the line that reframed the world. "You are mistaken, Mr. Sterling. You don't own her debt." A beat. The silence in the room became absolute, broken only by the soft hum of the secure server. "My daughter owns yours." Silence settled, thick and unyielding. A new reality was forged. The words hung in the air, heavier than stone. They did not compute. Victor stared, his mind refusing to assemble the pieces into their terrifying new shape. He stumbled back a half step, as if struck by a physical force. He looked at Lena. She was no longer the fragile woman in the bed. Her chin was up. Her eyes, which had been clouded with pain and fear, were now clear and cold as ice. In her arms, the baby Hope, a bundle of pure new life, was a symbol not of weakness, but of a future he had no part in. The secret was out. The power had shifted. The venture capitalist had made her final, devastating acquisition, Meridian Financial Group. Victor Sterling stood in the center of the room, a man suddenly adrift. He looked at the general, a figure of implacable justice. He looked at the silent aides and the impassive cop, pieces of a machine he hadn't seen moving. He looked at Lena, holding her child, the new owner of his ruin. His entire empire, the steel and glass and sheer arrogance of it, had been a house of cards, and the wind had just begun to blow. He opened his mouth. A dry, clicking sound was all that came out. His kingdom was sand, and the tide was here. The battle in the hospital suite was won, a decisive strike in a war for survival. but the real theater of operations was yet to be fully revealed. Days later, under the relentless gaze of a hungry city, the final, public reckoning would unfold in the very place where Lena's humiliation had begun. Every player, every betrayal, every calculated move was about to be laid bare. The St. Regis Atlantis Astor Ballroom, once a stage for opulence, now felt like a cold cathedral of judgment. The air, chilled to a precise, almost predatory temperature, carried the scent of polished marble, ammonia, and the faint, sterile ozone humming from the building's massive digital directory. That sterile smell was layered with something else, something human, the cloying mix of expensive perfumes and the faint, sharp tang of anxiety. Filtered gray light fell through the two-story windows, making the entire scene feel like it was underwater. Hushed whispers, dry as rustling leaves, echoed in the cavernous space, a counterpoint to the insistent silent flashes of press cameras and the soft, rhythmic whirring of their internal mechanisms. It was the exact stage of Lena's humiliation, now repurposed for a new drama, and the irony was a bitter taste in her mouth. Every person from that first brutal encounter was present, arranged like chess pieces for the final moves of the game. Victor Sterling stood near the concierge desk, a shipwreck in a Savile Row suit. A fine sheen of sweat had broken out on his forehead, which he dabbed at impatiently with a silk pocket square. His dark silk tie was slightly askew, a detail his hand kept finding and attempting to straighten, a nervous tick betraying the rage. He had tried to project authority upon his arrival, to bluster and command, but the silent, unmoving phalanx of General Silas Dubois and his two aides had formed a quiet wall he could not breach. He'd addressed the general directly, voice tight with indignation. "Dubois, call off your dogs. This is a private property matter." The general had merely looked through him, a profoundly unsettling experience for a man used to being the center of every room. Victor's world had tilted off its axis in a hospital room, and it had not stopped spinning since. Lena stood apart, a vision in a cream cashmere coat. Calm, composed, she breathed slowly, deliberately anchoring herself. Her chin was up. One hand rested on the gentle swell of her stomach, a constant, grounding touch. The child within was a silent witness and a secret strength. She was a fixed point in the swirling chaos. By her side, General Dubois was a statue of quiet power, his stillness an accusation, his presence a gravitational field that bent the room's attention. He hadn't said a word, yet he controlled everything. Tiffany gold was a splash of crimson violence against the lobby's cool gray tones. A scarlet dress impossibly tight. Gold chains clinked at her neck and wrists with every nervous movement, a sound like tiny, frantic bells. Her stiletto heel tapped in agitated rhythm against the marble floor. She kept glancing from Victor's crumbling composure to Lena's infuriating calm, but her eyes most often darted to the silent man in a dark suit who stood near the elevators, her uncle, a man whose stony expression gave nothing away. She tried to catch his eye for reassurance, but he remained fixed on the unfolding scene, his disappointment a palpable force. "This is a farce," Victor finally erupted, his voice too loud, too desperate, cracking the strained quiet. The whispers stopped. The camera flashes intensified into a blinding, hungry strobe. A hostile, illegal corporate seizure. A fabrication of debt and lies orchestrated by a vindictive woman and her family of thugs. He gestured wildly, his arm sweeping to encompass the lobby. I built this city. My name is on every corner, on the hospital wing you were born in, on the mortgage of every person in this building. You will all be hearing from my lawyers." He was monologuing to a dead audience. The power was off. The stage was dark. General Dubois gave a slight, almost invisible nod. Officer Davies stepped forward. He was just as he was that first day. A silent uniform, an impassive face. He held a small, black remote. He pointed it at the massive display screen behind the concierge desk, a screen that usually showed looping, glossy images of Atlanta's skyline. The screen flickered, then resolved into the grainy, immediate perspective of a body camera. A palpable tension filled the air, thick with the weight of impending revelation. The footage began. The audio was tinny, distorted, making the words even harsher. The sound of his own voice, raw and vicious, filled the lobby. "You think you can defy me in my own building?" The video showed Lena, her face pale with shock, her hand clutching her belly as she was jostled. It showed Victor, his video self, a monster of snarling entitlement, his face contorted in rage, pointing a finger in her face. It showed the security guards, their faces impassive as they followed his orders, the illegal eviction, the public stripping of her dignity. The video was irrefutable, cold, brutal. Every tenant who had watched in fear that day now watched in cold fury, their soft gasps and sharp intakes of breath a rising chorus. The video ended. A collective gasp rippled through the onlookers. Silence descended once more, heavier this time, thick with judgment. Victor stared at the screen, his mouth slightly agape, the blood draining from his face. "Edited," he stammered, the word catching in his throat. "That's doctored footage, a deep fake. She's a tech CEO. She knows how to manipulate." "Quiet," the general said. It was the first word he'd spoken, and it cut through Victor's rambling like a whip crack. The general's female aide, the one with the cold eyes and a hardened briefcase, stepped forward. She didn't even look at Victor. She spoke to the crowd, her voice crisp and clear. "We will now present deposition testimony from Ms. Tiffany Gold, Director of Marketing for Sterling Properties." A hush fell over the room, anticipatory and sharp. Tiffany went rigid. The clinking of her jewelry stopped. "What? That's a lie. I never gave any deposition. I demand to speak to my lawyer." The aide ignored her, tapping a key on a laptop connected to the screen. A new video appeared. This one was from a phone, intimate and casual. Tiffany, in her plush red office, on a video call, her face, flushed with malicious laughter, filled the screen. Loud gold hoops swung as she talked, glinting in the light. "So then I told him the doctor confirmed it. A boy!" Tiffany shrieked with laughter, a sound both brittle and greedy. "He bought it. The fool actually thinks a baby will make me sign a prenup. I'll have half his empire before this little Victor's is due to arrive. A throw pillow and a good story, that's all it takes." She patted a small cushion tucked under her red blazer, a prop in her personal drama. The video cut. A wave of shocked realization washed over the onlookers. A collective gasp, louder this time, swept through the lobby. Every eye turned to Tiffany. Her face was a mask of horror, her skin turning a blotchy, pale shade that clashed horribly with her dress. She looked at Victor, whose expression was a terrifying mixture of white-hot fury and cold disgust. She looked to the man near the elevator, her uncle, a man of stature and reputation in the city. His face was granite. He looked not at her, but through her. That's not," Tiffany began, her voice a panicked squeak. "It's out of context. We were joking." Her uncle took 2 slow, deliberate steps forward. The sound of his leather shoes on the marble was the only sound in the room. His voice, when it came, was not loud, but it cut through the room like a shard of glass. "I have spent 40 years building a name in this community." A name is all we truly own. It is a legacy built on integrity, on honor. He looked at his niece then, not with anger, but with a profound, soul-crushing disappointment that was far worse. "You have set fire to that legacy for trinkets and lies. You have shamed our name. You have shamed our family. As of this moment, you are no longer welcome in my house. You are no longer my blood." He turned his back on her, a quiet, final act of erasure. Tiffany swayed, a hand flying to her throat. The self-caused downfall, her own mouth, her own ambition, had set the fire. She made a small choking sound like a drowning bird. The red dress suddenly looked cheap. The gold jewelry looked like brass. Victor watched her, his expression vacant. Then his gaze drifted past her, to the screen, to the faces in the crowd. The empire he built was a lie. The woman he had flaunted was a fraud. The tenants he despised were now his jury. It was here, the human moment. His shoulders slumped, the impeccable tailoring of his suit suddenly looking hollow. The memory surfaced. My father built this from nothing. He said to be a rock, to be unbreakable. Victor looked at his own trembling hands. The memory surfaced. I became glass, all surface, no substance. I added towers of glass and steel, but forgot the foundation was people, their trust, their lives. A moment of quiet contemplation hung heavy in the air. The aid was not finished. The screen changed again. This time, it was a cancerous web of shell corporations, offshore accounts, and predatory loan agreements. It was Victor's financial soul, laid bare and dissected. A single red artery pulsed, originating from a default clause buried in the fine print of his massive commercial loans, a clause he himself had weaponized against countless others. The line snaked its way up the dizzying chart and connected to a single name at the top of the pyramid, Meridian Financial Group. The screen froze, and then, beneath that name, a new owner's name typed itself out in stark white letters. Owner, Dr. Lena Dubois. A murmur rippled through the crowd, growing into a roar of understanding and shocked approval. General Dubois stepped forward holding one single sheet of paper. He moved with the weight of history, each step on the marble floor a deliberate beat. He stopped in front of Victor. He did not need to raise his voice. The lobby fell silent, straining to hear. "Some debts are financial," the general began, his voice clear and final, "and others are moral. This is a foreclosure notice for Sterling Properties Incorporated, its subsidiaries, and all associated personal assets of its principal, Victor Sterling." He read from the paper, his gaze locked on Victor's. As per the accelerated repayment clause, triggered by the demonstrable collapse of shareholder confidence and confirmed asset fraud, some debts are paid in full and some are foreclosed. He placed the one single sheet of paper on the polished concierge desk. It landed with the softest sound, a whisper in the cavernous room. It was an epitaph. Victor stared at the paper. He looked at Lena, truly looked at her for the first time since she had arrived. This was not revenge, it was a rebalancing. She was not the broken tenant he had evicted. She was not the defiant professional he had tried to crush. She stood there, her chin held high, one hand on her belly, which sheltered not a phantom but a real, living child named Hope, the future. She was the architect of his end, using the very tools of finance and leverage he had taught her. She owned him. He was nothing. Silence, a vast, echoing void where his power used to be. Across the lobby, a woman moved. A tenant, Nia, a face Victor wouldn't even recognize, one of the many who had lived in fear of his whims, his rent hikes, his intimidation. She had received a notice just last year that her rent was increasing 30%, just after her mother had fallen ill. She had watched the evidence. She had seen the fall. Slowly, she pushed her chair back, the sound scraping like a crack of thunder in the stillness. She rose to her feet. One person, standing. It was enough. It was the first drop of rain before the flood. The grand lobby of Onyx Towers, usually a bastion of hushed opulence and polished efficiency, now thrummed with a raw electric energy. The single figure of Nia, standing defiant amidst the churning currents of the crowd, was a match struck in a dry, ancient forest. A low, guttural murmur, a current of recognition laced with long, simmering indignation, began to ripple through the assembly. It started as a barely perceptible whisper, a collective intake of breath, then grew, swelling with each passing second, transforming into a formidable wave of sound that finally broke against the cool, unyielding marble walls of the vast space. More people, emboldened by Nia's silent stand, rose from their seats, their faces a mosaic of grim resolve. Tenants, their homes threatened, former employees discarded without a second thought, investors who had felt the sharp, predatory edge of Victor Sterling's ruthlessness, they all stood, a silent, gathering army of the wronged. Their collective gaze, a weight pressing down on the man at the center of the storm. The scent of expensive, stale air conditioning mixed with a new, sharper tang of anticipation and righteous anger. Victor Sterling's face, a complex map already etched with the deep furrows of confusion and the blazing reds of fury, seemed to sag as if the very bones beneath his skin had suddenly turned to dust. The brutal finality of the general's words, "Some debts are paid in full, and some are foreclosed," echoed in the cavernous, high-ceilinged space, a chilling pronouncement of a life's work undone. It was not merely a statement of financial ruin, a dry declaration of assets seized. It was a judgment, delivered with the cold precision of a guillotine blade. His empire, a gleaming construct of glass, steel, and meticulously crafted deceit, now fractured around him, visible cracks spreading across its once impenetrable facade. A dry, metallic taste bloomed on his tongue, mirroring the bitter ash of his crumbling world. His jaw worked, a grotesque marionette, struggling to wrench forth words, a protest, a denial, anything to staunch the flow of his impending obliteration, but only a thin, reedy rasp managed to tear free from his constricted throat. He had been a god, an architect of destinies. Now he was a statue of salt, dissolving slowly, painfully in the rising, unstoppable tide of consequence. Tiffany gold, her scarlet dress, once a bold declaration of her allure, now felt like a garish shroud, a beacon drawing every unwanted eye to her public immolation. She tried desperately to melt into the opulent background, to become one with the shimmering polished marble and the hushed velvet ropes of the VIP section. Her uncle, General Dubois, a man whose formidable presence had been her only tether to respectability, had severed that connection with a surgical, cold disdain that left her reeling. She cast a desperate, wide-eyed glance towards Victor, a silent plea for rescue, for alliance, for anything to stem the gushing, public wound of her humiliation. Her perfectly manicured fingers twitched, as if yearning to claw back some semblance of control. But Victor did not see her. His vision was fixed on the gathering faces, the unblinking, predatory glint of cell phone cameras, the cold, hard, unyielding eyes of his accusers. Tiffany's world had become a public stage, and she had played her part, unwittingly, to its brutal, ignominious conclusion. With a choked gasp that was barely audible above the rising din, she fled. Her heels, usually a confident click, now made a frantic, uneven rhythm against the polished marble floor. The cheapened silver and paste diamonds of her jewelry, bracelets clanking, a necklace jostling, earrings dancing, clinked and jingled with each desperate, retreating step, a discordant symphony of her downfall. The sound, sharp and brittle, faded with her retreat towards the service exit, swallowed by the growing, hungry clamor of the crowd. A new, yet utterly familiar presence materialized with an almost spectral grace beside Victor. She had been there all along, a silent, elegant shadow, nearly camouflaged by the cool, imposing presence of a fluted marble column, observing the unfolding drama with an unnerving stillness. Elena Sterling, his wife, her silk dress, a deep midnight sapphire, whispered against her skin, shimmering subtly with an inner luminescence that seemed to absorb the muted light rather than reflect it, a stark, understated counterpoint to the lurid crimson Tiffany had flaunted. Her presence exuded a quiet, unshakable dignity, her face serene, almost unnervingly detached, utterly devoid of the furious storm that had engulfed her husband. She had navigated the treacherous currents of his philandering, the casual cruelties woven into his ambition, and the relentless, suffocating pursuit of power with an aristocratic endurance that was both fragile and unbreakable. Now, her gaze, cool and steady, settled upon Victor, not with the fiery rage he perhaps deserved, but with an immense, profound weariness tinged with a haunting pity that seemed to acknowledge a tragedy far older than this moment. Slowly, deliberately, she reached out. Her hand, slender and unadorned save for a single, exquisitely cut diamond that caught the light with a quiet fire, brushed lightly, almost tentatively, against his arm. The touch, feather-light, seemed to electrify Victor. He flinched, a sharp, involuntary tremor running through his frame. He looked at her, his eyes hollow, reflecting the cavernous emptiness within him. "Elena!" The sound was a ghost of his former booming voice. She spoke then, her voice a calm, clear bell amidst the rising clamor, meant only for his ears, a private judgment delivered in the public square. "Victor, it ends here! Your charade is over!" His last pillar of self-delusion crumbled, not with a crash, but with a silent implosion. He understood. Everything was irrevocably lost. The phantom smell of ozone from the screens, now fading, was replaced by the cold, sterile scent of defeat. Officer Davies, who had maintained a quiet, unobtrusive sentinel position throughout the tumultuous drama, now moved. His movements were precise, economical, honed by years of training and experience. He walked towards Victor with a measured, deliberate pace, his hand resting casually, yet firmly, on the worn grip of his service weapon, a subtle but unmistakable promise of contained force. From the fringes of the crowd, two other uniformed officers, emerging with practiced synchronicity, mirrored his posture, forming an inescapable triangle of law enforcement around the suddenly diminished property tycoon. The heavy scent of ozone from the screens, which had momentarily dissipated, now seemed to return, mingling with the sharp, metallic tang of Victor's burgeoning fear, a taste as bitter as gall. Victor, clinging to a final, desperate shred of his former power, tried to regain his bluster. "This is preposterous, an outrage. You have no jurisdiction. I demand to speak with my attorney." His voice, though still raspy, attempted to project the old authority, but it was a hollow echo. Officer Davies simply unclipped a pair of silver handcuffs from his belt. The metallic click, sharp and distinct, seemed preternaturally loud in the suddenly hushed lobby, cutting through the residual murmurs like a knife. "Victor Sterling," he began, his voice flat, devoid of emotion, a mere instrument of the law. "You are under arrest for multiple counts of fraud, market manipulation, and conspiracy to commit illegal eviction." His gaze was unwavering, his demeanor professional. "Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." Victor's face went slack, the last vestiges of his defiance draining away. His empire had fallen. His reputation was now nothing but ash, scattered by the winds of public condemnation. Now his freedom, the very air he breathed, dissolved before his eyes. He opened his mouth again, perhaps to utter another protest, a final, guttural roar of defiance, but no sound came. His throat felt constricted, his tongue thick and uncooperative. Officer Davies took his arm, firmly but without aggression, his grip a silent, unyielding promise of accountability. The officers guided him away, past the silent, watching faces, past the lingering whispers of judgment that followed him like hungry shadows, towards the service entrance, the same ignominious path Tiffany had taken moments before. He cast one last, desperate, searching look at the retreating screen, as if hoping to find an escape clause, a hidden loophole written there in glowing pixels. He found none. The screen remained blank, an indifferent mirror to his ruin. Nia watched him go, her chin remaining high, her composure absolute, a fortress of quiet strength. The cream cashmere coat, a soft armor against the chill of the lobby, draped perfectly over her, its luxurious texture a comfort. Her hand, a familiar anchor, rested gently on the soft, swelling curve of her belly. Within her, hope stirred, a reassuring, delicate flutter, a promise of new life amidst the wreckage of the old. Nia had faced down the beast, not with screams or overt aggression, but with quiet, calculated strategy, wielding the precision of finance and law as deftly as a surgeon's scalpel. She breathed in the chilled, marble-scented air, no longer heavy with predatory tension, but crisp, clean, and filled with the promise of a future untainted by corruption. General Dubois approached his daughter, his imposing figure moving with a rare, almost tender deliberation. His expression was a carefully controlled blend of profound pride and deep satisfaction, emotions rarely allowed to surface on his stern features. He didn't speak, knowing words were unnecessary. Instead, he simply placed a large, reassuring hand on her shoulder, a silent affirmation of her triumph, a powerful endorsement. He had ensured his daughter's instructions were carried out with military precision. His mission was complete. He gave a single, almost imperceptible nod to his aides, and they, moving with the quiet efficiency of shadows, began to pack their equipment, their task accomplished with discreet professionalism. The secured data, the irrefutable evidence, had sealed Victor's fate more effectively than any prison cell. The general turned then, his powerful figure moving with renewed purpose, his departure as understated and powerful as his arrival. He was gone, leaving only the lingering scent of old money and quiet authority. The crowd began to disperse, the intense silence giving way to a low, murmuring hum of conversations, replacing the former tension with a buzz of commentary and analysis. The reporters, their cameras still flashing, a flurry of electronic starlight, quickly pivoted, turning to chase the new angle, the salacious details of Victor's dramatic arrest. The Onyx Towers lobby, which had served as a stark stage for public humiliation and a brutal reckoning, slowly began its return to its everyday grandeur, though forever marked by the unforgettable drama that had unfolded within its polished walls. Across the vast polished floor, amidst the swirling currents of departing people, a woman walked with a quiet dignity. It was Nia, the tenant who had dared to stand, the catalyst for this monumental shift. In her arms, swaddled securely in a soft pink blanket, was a newborn. Hope, Nia's hope. The baby's tiny fist, curled like a delicate seashell, rested against her chest, a soft, warm, utterly precious weight. Nia's steps were steady, deliberate, imbued with a newfound strength. She moved past the remnants of the spectacle, past the hushed conversations and the retreating shadows, her gaze fixed forward towards the promise of the light streaming in through the revolving doors. She had faced the storm, endured its wrath, and through it all had found new beginnings. Life, in the end, found a way, a seed pushing through concrete.